Hello and welcome back to the Data Privacy Lawyer. My name is Funmi Owolabi and I'm the principal attorney at the firm. Today's review, we're going to be looking at a cookie notice by Cookie First. Let us look at this banner and consent management preference center. Consent to cookies. So we've got the privacy policy, we have information. We may place these cookies for analysis of our visitor data, right? I'm a visitor. I'm visiting the site. So I'm included. Scope is covered. To improve our website, show personalized content, and to give you a great website experience. For more information about the cookies we use, open the settings. Data is collected for the purposes of advertising, personalization, and measuring the effectiveness of advertising campaigns. Data may be shared with Google. More information can be found here. Let's actually click it. Okay, so we've got Google's. Okay, let's talk about that a bit more in detail. The review here is Cookie First. So we've got necessary, those can never be changed. But what I want businesses to understand is this language all means something. They've given us notice here that they may place the cookies for analysis. What they're telling us here is what they do. They're not asking for permission at this stage. They're telling us this is their practice when it comes to our personal data. And it includes mine because I'm a visitor to the site. Let's cover the advertising one first. Data is collected for the purposes of advertising, and we've got the advertising one here. Giving you a great website experience, performance, functional, to improve our website, done. So you have to reconcile the language that you put in your notice to what you are actually doing in practice. I'm not going to accept any, but the other thing I wanted to draw attention to for this review is you can see each of these buttons is the same color. That's really important. There's something in the data protection space, it's called a dark pattern. And a dark pattern essentially is a marketing tactic that businesses traditionally use to sway consumers to act in a specific manner. And what some organizations do is they will have different colored buttons based on what they hope a consumer is going to select. Sometimes you'll see the accept button is like yellow or green, and then the deny one might not have any colors at all. The adjust also is a different color. That oftentimes is considered a dark pattern. All of the buttons should be the same. Basically, I'm going to accept what I've selected, which is only the necessary one. If we wanted to change it, we can, but we're not going to. We want to review, oops, interesting. Let me see if we can scroll to the bottom and address the consent. I meant to opt out of all. Yeah, here we go. Change cookie settings. So this is the notice, the General Data Protection Regulation. So for anybody that's brand new, this is the EU data protection legislation that dictates how businesses can process personal data. Here's the name of the notice. Try our cookie policy generator to verify that the use of cookies and online tracking on your website complies with the GDPR and CCPA policy. So let's talk a bit about this. First of all, the first thing I want to say is geography matters, and I've mentioned this many times. But the reason why you're seeing this distinction with the GDPR and CCPA, it also ties back into that cookie consent preference center that we just saw. In the European Union, the requirement for businesses is if you're going to be using cookies, you need to give consumers the opportunity to opt in, meaning that there should be no cookies outside of those required that are toggled to the on setting. In the European Union, users should go in to that preference center and type on. In the United States, which is where the California Consumer Privacy Act applies, the requirements for businesses is that they give users the opportunity to opt out, meaning as a US resident in California, a business has the requirement to display the notice to you that cookies are being collected, but the obligation is that they give you the opportunity to opt out. And you can see that I was able to scroll down to the bottom and change my cookie settings. Now, when we originally landed on this page, all of the optional cookies had been toggled to off, which gives me the indication that this organization has applied the most restrictive data protection law as it pertains to its cookie compliance, meaning it's looked at the most restrictive privacy law and it's applied it across the board, irrespective of where a visitor is accessing the site. And I am a visitor from the United States. So this business's requirement is to allow me to opt out. It did not have to give me the opportunity to opt in like it did at the beginning of this video. And this should form part of your cookie compliance. It's very, very important. It's not just important for businesses to display their cookie notice. They also need to think about the relationship between the notice and that consent management platform. And there should always be a consent management platform. And I had mentioned about the dark pattern situation that businesses should take into consideration. Don't try to sway your users one way or another by using different types of colors or deceptive language, because that's very problematic irrespective of geography. So there's some insight here about what a cookie notice looks like. It's the banner that appears first when you arrive on the website. I think this is a really valuable website to review if you're a business and know nothing about cookies. Let's say, for example, you're considering whether or not you want to engage a privacy lawyer or not. There's a lot of really useful information online like this website that goes into those details. And even though this organization, they're giving you insights on what constitutes cookie consent, how it should look, etc., you should also know that they sell a consent management platform. So they're selling a product, and in selling that product, there's going to be the processing of personal data. So as a controller, they still have obligations to present that cookie banner and allow us to manage our preferences because they operate the website. Also think that's really good insight. Outside of giving advice to businesses about what is a cookie, how to implement your cookie consent flow and having your own notice, you can see websites like this that provide really valuable information on what cookies are. And they also have their consent management platform here outside of me being a visitor to their website. And I think this also goes back into the discussion about different buckets of data subjects. Traditionally, your privacy notice and cookie notice are for visitors to your site. You need to have a notice that represents how you process personal data related to your visitors. But you can also have data subjects that are employees. You can also have data subjects that are vendors or suppliers. You can also have data subjects that are customers. As far as I'm concerned, this cookie notice applies to visitors of this business's website. But outside of that, they provide insight about transparency and what they're offering, their product is doing, and what businesses should know about a cookie notice. There's insights here. So I thought this was going to be a very valuable read. Let me see. Let's see their cookie notice. Here we go. Okay. So they've got their own cookie notice from 2024. The website that we saw before, or the URL link that we reviewed, was insights about cookies generally. And I understand it to be information about the product that they provide, which is the Consent Manager platform. But outside of that, they have their own cookie notice. And I would anticipate that this is in line with all of the geographies where they provide their service. It may be that they've limited the scope. Let's see. Cookies, make sure that during your visit to the website, right? So they've outlined where this notice applies. If you're visiting the website, which I am, this notice applies to you. I haven't purchased any of their products and services, but they are still able to process my personal data based on my usage of their website, and that has to be accounted for. So I really hope you enjoyed this particular review. If you have comments about what I've stated, leave a comment below, and I will see you in another review.